welcome to the Buddy Book Club. Thanks for joining us. I'm here with my good buddy Keith, as always, to break down some bestsellers. If you'd like to reach out to us regarding this book or any of our past or future episodes, you can visit our website, buddybookclub.com, or slide into our DMs on Twitter or Instagram. Buddy Book Club Podcast is where we're at on those two platforms. You can listen to us on iTunes and Spotify, so please download and subscribe. And this time, I really mean it, because after 10 episodes in the can, we have officially launched. I'd like to take a moment, if you don't mind, to congratulate us. Well, not this version of us, but, the version of us in the universe where our podcast immediately shot up the charts. And, Joe Rogan, who is a vegan and has never smoked a bowl in his life in this universe, asked us to come on his podcast to give him some advice on how to grow. So we appreciate that, Joe. We'll be on in that universe anytime. Fortunately for us, though, we are in this universe and we get to stay humble because that's the most important. And in this universe, a guy named Blake Crouch wrote a book called Dark Matter. And that's what we'll be talking about today. Keith, what's Dark Matter about?
Dark Matter. So it is a story about Jason Dessen, who is basically, and when I'm gonna tell this plot summary, I'm gonna do a little bit of analogies because I don't really like summarizing, so I'm just gonna use some references because that's how I
love
things.
Your summaries. They're my favorite.
Thank you. All right, Jason Dessen. He's basically Sean McGuire from Good Will Hunting. Where he's this fucking super smart scientist, but he chose family and over his career, right? He never regretted it a day in his life, though, not one day. Mm-hmm. But the question becomes, what would have happened if he went on to be a scientist? Well, we find out that answer because himself in another universe comes and kidnaps him, brings him into that world. Basically, the book revolves around the rest of the story being him, Jason 1 in this instance, putting the pieces back together, bouncing between worlds like the TV show Sliders. Great show.
That's literally what I was going to say. I was like, just say it's Sliders.
which is it is. And then trying to get his family back. Some good resources are Darkest Timeline episode by Community.
Yep.
Coherence, the movie, which I've recommended to you. There's a bunch of YouTube videos on the Schrödinger cat theory, which I've had a lot of dinner party discussions about as of late, which I fucking love.
I love that you have dinner parties.
Well, anytime someone says they're a scientist, I'm like, oh yeah, hotshot? And then I bring up the Schrödinger.
Which you didn't know until...
Now, well, I didn't really understand it then, and now I feel like I'm basically an expert. I think that summarizes it. Did I cover it, and do you think I did a good job there?
Yeah.
I look for your approval.
You stumbled through it, but It was really good. I wouldn't want any other way.
I need to warm up. I need to warm up,
Yeah, so 2016 novel. I guess Blake Crouch had a previous hit with Wayward Pines, this trilogy that then got turned into a TV show. I'm not familiar with those, but supposedly they were well received. But Dark Matter is basically a thriller with a backbone in speculative science. So we both love sci-fi stuff and easy read books, and this was recommended to us as a beach read, and I think that fits. So I think one of the best. This isn't really part of the summary, but Jason, like when he initially comes into the next world and he's like super confused and doesn't know what's going on, he like initially thinks this may be like an elaborate prank. And I just kept thinking, like, I couldn't even read the book because I was just thinking about how hilarious that would have been. Like Ashton Kutcher just jumping out of nowhere. Oh, we held you at gunpoint. We stripped you naked. We beat the shit out of you. We injected you with ketamine and redecorated your house. We totally got you. Like, there's a camera. There's a camera. There's a camera. Like, that would have been the most elaborate prank. He's like, is this a prank? I was like, dude, you got held at gunpoint and beat this shit out of. Like, yeah, this would be the most fucked up prank for someone to pull on you. Before we really dig deep into this, we got a bunch of categories we're going to go through. We like to have a libation to enjoy through the episode. Usually something that is, referenced in the novel itself. In this one, I mean, there's a lot of uncorking of wine bottles. Jason and Danielle at the beginning of the book, Jason and Danielle at 2, halfway through the book, Jason and Danielle at the end of the book, and several times in between. So I personally, y'all can do whatever you like, whether it be wine or grape juice or something totally different. But I'm going to be uncorking, and by uncorking, I mean hitting the tap on the Bota box of some fine Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh, fancy. Okay.
First, I'd like to go over the science. We're not going to deep dive into this, but I just think it's important considering this book is so heavily reliant on science and specifically quantum mechanics. I mean, they're complex ideas that are made harder because they're hard to visualize, but you've mentioned some stuff that you can watch that touches on this idea and this theme. Also, I know that Blake Crouch used this guy Aaron O'Connell's TED Talk called Making Sense of a Visible Quantum Object as a reference point. I watched it. I was stupider after listening to it. Like, I just realized how dumb of a person I am because I understood none of it. Like, the words made sense, but it's like when you're reading and you read like 10 pages and you don't realize that you've read 10 pages because your mind was elsewhere. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt watching that. But with this book, we're going to be talking mostly, or the focus, I guess, is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, which is basically that every decision you make creates like a fork in the road. And in one universe, there's a version of you that went down one path. And in another universe, there's a version of you that went down another path. And that's for literally everything. So it's infinite. Infinite universes, infinite stuff going on. There's a universe where Blake Crouch decided not to write this book and instead became a serial killer. So normally we like to start off by picking our favorite character. There's really not, or, a character we relate to, or just someone that was funny. But there's not really a lot of characters in this book. But I had a question for you, quickly. Which life would you rather live? Jason 1's or Jason 2's?
I think that this one was pretty much a no-brainer. It didn't make any sense to me why Jason 2 would want to be Jason 1. You're rich, you're successful, you're everything you ever wanted, and then now you can literally go meet Daniela, who's single, who you can literally start that relationship with, rather than going back. Like, the whole point of being married for 10 years is, like, you have all these shared memories, right? So you can literally start a relationship, if you're Jason 2, with the person, create all those memories, and all that shit. So, and you're rich. It wasn't like he lived in a universe where Daniela didn't exist. It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 100% with you. We didn't talk about this, but he already did all the things professionally he wanted to accomplish. And even Jason 1, when he got to Jason 2's timeline, just goes and bangs Daniela. Like, that's the first thing he does. Yeah. So, like, bro, she just opened this awesome art installation. Go see it. And woo her.
And she's rich, and he was like, oh, she's way hotter in this universe. So I was like, wait, what? What are we doing?
Yeah, it made no sense to me. He was like, just say, hey, I did this. I made the box. Peace out, sketchy organization that I work for.
Yeah.
I'm going to go see Daniela, and we're going to have kids now. Or if you can't have kids, whatever. Adopt a kid. Whatever. It's not a big deal. Just
kids suck, too. So, yeah, 100%.
Dude, don't fuck with Chuck. All right. But yeah, it just didn't make a ton of sense to me.
No.
Because they often say you can't have your cake and eat it too. But this Jason could have. Instead, he decided to potentially die or go down this crazy path of spending like 3/4 of a year in this quantum realm to hopefully find a version where he had already married Daniela and they had all these memories. And then just like slide
that he doesn't
into
remember.
That.
Yeah.
And also it involves like him fucking up a different version of himself. Jason 2, you got to figure it out, man. I think he went a little crazy. Maybe sniffed the fumes when he was like soldering the box together or something. Oh yeah. When did you realize that Jason 2 was the one that was kidnapping Jason 1?
That's one of my actual hates, which I'll get to. But the book could have just started with him waking up being like, I'm not in the right world, or like, I might be going crazy. That would have been such a better, because right away I knew he was like, oh, he must be kidnapped by himself, because they were like, oh, his voice sounds so familiar, and I'm like, oh, so it's just him?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Is that what it is? Right away I had my antennas up. If you just started and you're like, is this dude actually crazy, or is he, what's going on? Or are people playing tricks on him? Like, it would have made way more sense if we didn't get that beginning part,
I do think you need the setup to show.
Well, you could have like started remembering certain things, being like, I remember getting hit in the head, or things like that, where he like slowly pieces it together. But we already knew all that shit, so we're basically waiting for him to catch up to what we knew, which kind of sucks.
That's fair. Yeah, you could have done it in like a flashback form or something like that. But I do think it's important to set up the relationship that he had with Daniela and Charlie. And I mean, once he was talking about like, we chose this path of having a kid and living this life together. I knew that was like, okay, so there's
Yeah.
another path that he took, and this is going to be some time traveling shit, or not time traveling, but other universe stuff. Fair enough. Fair enough. Did you have anything else for this section before we get into favorite scene?
Are we gonna do the perfect world?
Let's do it here. What was your question?
When they're in the box where they can go to any universe they want, they would write down what universe they would want to go to, and basically like they imagined it, and then they'd be there. So I wrote down, mine was somewhat similar to Amanda's, because Amanda's universe fucking was awesome, but mine was in less than 2 sentences. This might be run on. Technology is awesome and beneficial to all, like we're in some cool sci-fi movie. Everyone is much friendlier as a result of the technology. The general disposition, you like that word, is that of a wedding dance floor or 4th of July beach weekend. P.S. It goes without saying, people are much more promiscuous, and book club podcasts are all the rage. So, yeah, that's basically that's mine.
Well, we don't want book club podcasts to be all the rage, because then we get drowned out in the echo chamber.
Specifically ours. They're just taking off.
Yeah, I want one where Tom Brady spent 20 years in New England, and I get to every other week or so chat with my good buddy Keith about some fun books we've read and spend my time on some sort of body of water, whether that be lakes or oceans. Oh my God, I'm in the universe. This is amazing.
Wait, I thought you were saying
hands?
everything's exactly the same except Brady stays with the Patriots. It doesn't go to the Bucks, is what I'm assuming.
Well,
right?
he spent 20 years here. Hey, I'll take what I can get.
Okay.
I appreciate it. I appreciate
All right,
his time.
all right, fair enough.
I'll adjust it so he spent one more season, won a last championship.
Okay,
And
there you go.
literally at the Super Bowl, got on a horse and rode off into the sunset. That's the universe I want to live into. Favorite scene. Let's get into our favorite scene from the book. What did you like the most?
Generically, I would say that the world building was my favorite scenes. I thought it was the coolest thing ever when they would just jump to a new world that they didn't know where they were going, and it was like that ice world, the disease-ridden world, all these different worlds that were somewhat similar, which is kind of the Sliders feel. I mean, they just bring back Sliders is what I'm saying.
I think that's what we're getting
It was
to.
a great show. My favorite scene, because I thought I was getting a hold of things until in the New World they broke in and just killed Daniela. I thought that was like where I was like, oh shit, what the fuck's going on now? So I actually really thought that was the best scene in terms of creating some action when you weren't expecting it. That was my favorite. And then the world building, those 2 things really.
We really are a particle held in the quantum realm, because we're the same thing existing in 2 different places. Because I have the same thing. My first is when Daniela 2 got murdered. It was like, holy shit, this is getting real. Like, cool. That was the most like page turnery part for sure. And then the first time they get in the box, and just like you said, it reminded me of the first 15 minutes of this episode of Sliders, where it's like, oh, what is this world they're in? Like, what? Egyptian temples are in Maine? How did that happen? Just like anything else, it's like when you watch a superhero movie, the best part is the origin story. So
Right, 100%.
I had that same vibe, like seeing all those different Chicagos, and I actually think there's a nod to Chicago when they go to the snow-covered world, and Jason describes it as a white city, which was the name of the fairgrounds at the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition, which was like the World's Fair that was Chicago's famous for. So I don't know if that was a nod to it, but I think it was, because he was like, oh, it was a snow-covered city. It was like a white city. And if you're like a Chicago person, which I think he is, then that'd be a good kind of secret nod right there.
Okay. You lost me a little bit, but I like it.
Yeah. Oh, check out Devil in the White City, Eric Larson. Good book.
Also, I'll add to it the gun store. I think that was another one where you're kind of mind blown.
Yeah, it was like, oh,
Yeah.
you were here 2 days ago, and another version
Yeah,
of you was here
yeah.
3 days ago. Where do you think they end up? I know this is probably for later in the pod, but it was itching at me. So the final scene is basically, they go into the box, and he lets Charlie pick which door they open, presumably so that like no other Jasons can follow them, because if Charlie picks, then it's up to Charlie. Granted, another Jason could find another Charlie, but yeah. So where do you think they end up? What's Charlie's idea?
I don't know. Charlie, I didn't like Charlie. I didn't like him at all. They probably went to some artsy fartsy fucking world, hippy dippy shit that you'd love, D-Man. I'm out on him. They should have let Daniela pick it, not Charlie.
Really? Yeah. I don't know.
If your 18-year-old self were able to pick the world right now, you think your 30-year-old self would like it?
Well, Charlie's 15, so I'm picturing something more out of like Rick and Morty, and they just end up, if you let Morty pick what the adventure was, they just end up in this world where there's like naked women everywhere. He's 15, come on. Like there's naked women everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Doing all sorts of weird stuff, and it's like, Danielle.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. That'd be...
I mean, truthfully, the amount of times that kid had to listen to his parents having sex in this book, I wouldn't be surprised. There was a couple of times I was like, come on, guys. Like, I know that you're all under one roof, but it felt like a Mongolian yurt, just like listening to your parents have your next sibling. Like, shit, we're all stuck. They're in a cabin, and they're just banging away on the floor as Charlie's right below them. It's like, God, the kid has had enough trauma in his life for a day. Like, give him a rest.
I remember class in college, one of the professors showed a movie. It was supposed to be during like the 1930s or something. And they just depicted a mom and a dad just banging in front of like 5 kids. And he's like, this was normal back then. And I was just like, oh my God, like what the fuck? And they were like smiling at the kids while they're doing it. And I was like, all right, this is the most disturbing thing I've ever seen.
Eye contact? Everything was cool about that until eye contact came into it.
This is a 5-minute clip, and 2 minutes of it was that. And I was like, wait, what are we watching this for?
This is like you go to Sturbridge Village or like Plymouth Plantation, and they're like, oh, this is what typical daily life was like. And it's just a couple actors banging away in some room while their kids are huddled on the floor.
Yeah. Hey, don't avoid eye contact.
Yeah, don't break eye contact, Billy. Let's get into stock up, stock down. What are you buying this week for Dark Matter stock?
Stock up, first one. Fucking over yourself. Stock up. I mean, this book, it just proves that as humans, we're willing to fuck over other selves or our future selves. You think about Friday nights, and I'm drinking 12 beers. Mm-hmm. Saturday morning, Keith, fuck him. I don't give a fuck about Saturday morning, Keith. Or when I eat like 15 hot wings and a full pizza on Sunday night, and Monday, Keith just is the most miserable person of all time. You know what? Fuck that Keith. I don't give a shit about him. So when they're like, oh, I'm going to go like kill all my other future selves and fuck them over, I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. No qualms.
Continue drinking a case of beer on a Saturday night and feeling miserable in the morning.
Yeah, well, that's Sunday Keith's problem, not fucking my problem.
I'd say, the chicken wing Keith, he could just buy some wet wipes. And I'm not talking about the mouth kind for Monday Keith. Just help himself out.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Stock up for me was emergency rooms. Emergency rooms kind of get a bad rap, the wait's really long. They send you a bill that's like kind of crazy. But in this book, Jason 1 goes to the emergency room, gets an MRI immediately, and the results come in overnight. The doctor takes it upon herself. She's an overnight ER doctor, like probably one of the most underpaid doctors. She went through 6 years of medical school and then 3 years of a residency to become an ER doctor, not get paid as much as her other classmates. And she takes it upon herself to become a private investigator and find out who Jason is. I mean, this is no easy feat. She goes through the faculty websites of every university and college in Chicago. And I did some sleuthing myself. I'm no private investigator, but I did a little bit of sleuthing. And there are like 50 plus colleges and universities in Chicago. I stopped counting. I wasn't even that much of an investigator. I had to stop. So the fact that she went to each one of these college websites and looked through the faculty of the science department to see if his name was in there, phenomenal. Phenomenal job by that ER doctor. I don't know where the ER stock is. I feel like it's not high, but I'm buying it because if there's doctors like this in the ER, I want them on my side. Simple as that.
2 things, though, real quick. How about her being like, I'm going to send you to a mental institute, and you can't do anything about it? Excuse me? Like, what? Like, first of all, either you don't tell him that, Or secondly, what are you, a prison guard now? She's also just fucking like, yeah, you're not out of here, but you can walk out that door, by the way.
By the way, that door is unlocked and the elevator's to your right.
yeah. Feel free to leave, but you can't leave. I just looked up ER doctor's salary between 100K to 420K, so I think they're okay.
That's a wide range. That's a ridiculous range.
Although I do see emergency physician starting at 36K on ZipRecruiter, so I don't know what that means.
What else do you have for stock up?
Stock up. Artist work ethic. So artists typically get a bad rap. You know, most people pick it up as a hobby. Oh yeah, well, like, remember people that get like art history degrees? They're
okay, got you.
What's the best thing? You know, the jokes around that. All the jokes around artists being kind of like lazy pieces of shit.
I don't know those jokes, but I know that art history majors get bad rap.
People that are artists are typically thought of as like lazy or kind of drifters, right? They're kind of not. They're not with mainstream society.
All right, I'll hear you out. I'll hear you out.
Do you have too many artist friends that I'm making fun of right now?
I don't have any artist friends, I don't think. But you know,
they cut their ears off. They fucking you know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But anyways, and then most people pick up as a hobby painting, different art type thing when they have kids.
Sure.
But Daniela, for some reason, loses all artistic inspiration once she has a kid. So fuck Charlie for that. That's one. But then when she doesn't have a kid and she has all this extra free time and can take her, use her work ethic to become a better artist, she becomes famous. So stock up, artist work ethic. If you have more time and more effort to that, then you become better.
Yeah, to all artists out there, just don't have kids and you'd be an absolute superstar.
That's what I heard. It didn't really make sense to me, but it would make more sense if she was like a musician that couldn't travel or something, right? Like she was in the symphony, but
totally. It really didn't make a ton of sense that she like couldn't continue her art career. Like,
well, I said Charlie fucked over her artistic inspiration. She basically was like, I had a kid, I don't even fucking care about art anymore.
I don't know. Maybe like her muse was gone because she was like, oh, I already created the most beautiful thing in my mind. Like I don't need to create anything else. Other thing for stock up I'm not buying that stock, by the way, but other stock up for I had cooking for and with your loved ones. So this stock is, I feel, pretty high, but I mean,
you're buying Microsoft right now.
In this book, Jason asked Daniela to start the pasta, which means putting pasta in boiling water, which she refuses and says she likes to watch him cook, and which he creepily responds, "Does it turn you on?" And I just want to be clear that if putting pasta in water turns someone on, then I have the sex appeal of like, I don't know, Patrick Swayze in his prime, like Roadhouse, you know, Dirty Dancing into Roadhouse. That's where I'm at. So I'm down for that. Also, Daniela too whips up some homemade chicken soup when Jason's sick and some bomb bean stew that was like a passed down recipe. So there's, you know, some deeper feels to that. And what comes out of it? They have, and I quote, fumbling, groping, backseat of the car, unprotected because who gives a fuck, proton smashing together sex. Whoa. I mean, she cooks them 2 homemade meals and they're having proton smashing together sex? Yeah.
Proton smashed together? Is that nuclear?
Well, yeah, it'd be fusion as opposed to fission.
See, this is why we have the expert scientists on the pod. We appreciate that. I was thinking if any pod we needed to like a guest, this would be the one to have some like scientists come on and we just shit on them. Nah, that doesn't sound right.
We really should have had an artist on so they could have immediately hung up after your previous take.
I was giving artists credit. If you dedicate yourself, it actually is important. And you were like, no, I'm not buying that stocks. Artists all suck is what you said. Okay. Got him.
I mean, even Charlie gets in on the cooking at one point. When they're in the cabin, he's whipping up pancakes for the family. I don't know many I have an 18-year-old brother. He leaves plates and cups and dirty stuff all over the place. This Charlie's up at like 7 a.m. making pancakes from scratch for the family. Like, oh, Dad, will you make that special applesauce that you make? Apple maple sauce? Like, fuck, damn, this is a good family, good cooking family. I do have to call out Daniela though, when she's making the bean stew. Like, are swimming goggles really necessary for chopping 1 onion? I appreciate the hack. It's a decent kitchen hack. You know, put the goggles on so the onions don't burn your eyes. I get it. But you're supposed to be like a pretty good cook from what we can tell here, and you're cutting up one onion. Like, it's not going to make you cry that much. Relax, Danielle.
I mean, it's look good, feel good, play good. It's like you put on like the kiss the chef apron. You know you're not spilling on yourself. You just got to put it on. It's a swag thing, I thought.
I have an apron, and I just spill shit all over myself all the time. Never use it.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, cooking for and with your loved ones. Stock up. What else you got?
COVID. Stock up.
COVID. Okay. I think I know where you're going with this.
It's been getting hit a lot, but we saw that what like legit COVID was like in that other world. Everyone's bleeding out of their eyes. The government's chasing people down, shooting at them. The streets are fucking just deserted. That seemed a little bit worse to me. So COVID getting a bad rap. I think we're going to give it a little stock up.
That universe reminded me of like Escape from New York, the movie. Snake Plissken, great character name. But just, you know, cool world, shattered up. But I don't know if the stock's necessarily up, because in that universe, Jason is unmasked. You know, Fauci would be pissed. He's unmasked and just like goes up to Daniela in this world and is like talking to her as she's like coughing up blood in his face. And it's like, dude, everyone has died from this virus and you're just like chilling out here. Does he have any ill effects? Yeah. No, none at all. So basically, COVID isn't real. Bottom line.
We're going to get kicked off of all the platforms, kid. Oh, we were joking about that.
Don't get vaccinated.
yeah. God damn it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I like that one. Another stock up for me, Chicago, the city itself. I mean, this is a good Chicago book. This is a really good Chicago book. He spends a few pages talking about like a day in Chicago that they have. I think it's Jason 1 hanging out, or Jason 2 hanging out with Daniela, whatever the case is. But, you know, they catch an afternoon ball game at a historic ballpark in Wrigley Field. He talks about the smells in the air, the roasted peanuts, the popcorn, the plastic cups of lukewarm beer, which if you're at Wrigley, you got to be drinking old style. That's for sure. The roar of the crowd. I mean, come on. And then you follow that up with a trip to Navy Pier, maybe hit the Ferris wheel, which was invented in Chicago. The Ferris wheel for the 1893 World's Fair that we mentioned before. But, you know, and then after that, you can take a walk to Giordano's, or sorry to all Pequods or Lou Malnati's fans out there, but Giordano's is right there on Navy Pier. Just a great Chicago day. I mean, wow. He breaks it down, and I appreciated that because Chicago's a wonderful city. So, Chicago, your stock's pretty good, pretty good, but I'm buying.
You're going to be surprised by this one because I've been selling it a lot, but Dreams, stock up.
Whoa, you've sold so much Dreams. You're buying Dreams?
Yeah, I'm buying now.
Wow.
Well, what I realized...
Are you buying the dip?
Mid-book is that the basically new worlds are just dreams, right? Like, nothing impactful happens in them. It's fine. You just go to new worlds. Like, I know he cheats on his wife with the other Daniela in the dreams. They basically just go to new worlds. I don't know why he cared about other people in those worlds. They have no impact at all in your actual real life, right? So that's why I felt like it was just a dream for them. Yeah. It was just a cool vacation, but it didn't impact anything. Fair. You wake up and go to the real world.
Yeah.
So I liked it.
It'd be like if your dreams were like the people in your dreams were real people though. So like you'd be impacting their world. But like if you don't care about them, then like that's cool.
Here's a really far out theory. Maybe when you are in a dream, you're in another world and you are impacting that world.
If that's true, I have some fucked up dreams. So there are some fucking crazy worlds out there.
It's possible.
I'm always down to buy dream stock.
There's infinite worlds, so it could be true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's if you told me for my past stock down, you were like, hey, there's infinite worlds, bro. That could be real. And I'd be like, oh, shit. All right.
Hey, whatever you're putting into dreams, put it in for me. I'll pay you. Stock up for me, drug use. I mean, stock's actually going pretty good, but once again, we're buying high and we're going to keep watching it soar. Jason takes a ton of intravenous drugs throughout this book and is totally fine. The drug seems a lot like heroin to me, but he's chill afterwards. I mean, he takes like 40 vials, no dependency.
Real quick there, he does become homeless and is staring at his house at one point, like not shaved, not eating, begging for change. So I don't know about that, but okay.
Yeah, but he's not using it because he's dependent on the drug. He's just like, yeah, I'm good, you know? That's important. I mean, he even gives the drugs to his kid. Cool enough to be like, yeah, Charlie, you gotta try this shit out. This shit fucks you up.
If you take acid and you literally go on the worst trip and then you're no longer dependent on the drug, but you're out in the street begging for change, would you say that's a bad drug or good drug?
Well, acid wouldn't make you do that, but you know that's not what this podcast is about.
That's neither here nor there. I'm just saying. Let's not argue semantics, sir. I'm just saying.
My point is that he takes a drug without any real side effects or issues. Hooray, drugs. Also, weed. Daniela too, the amazing artist Daniela, the cooler Daniela, likes to toke up. They said that previous Daniela stopped smoking when Charlie was around, and this Daniela smokes weed. So maybe the artsy factor is just that she's smoking weed.
Oh,
is that what allowed her to create entanglement?
That's big, yeah.
I think so. So basically, smoke weed, become a creative genius. Simple. Stock up. Buy it.
That makes a lot of sense. Artist, work ethic, and weed combined. Stock up.
Toke up, stock up. I'm all in. What else you got? Stock down.
Being a cabin owner, stock down. Let me set the scene for you here, D-Man. You've been working 60-hour weeks. It's dead of winter. You need a break. You need some rest and relaxation. You need a winter cabin weekend. Get in touch with nature. You know that smell out in the woods? You just need that, right, in your life? Maybe some burning wood. Better. You pull up to the cabin that you've had all your life that your father built with his bare hands. You roll in to notice that the door has been ajar and someone has broken in. And you walk in and you see the mess around there like, oh, my God, I can't believe this is happening. You stumble into your bedroom and see your bed has been slept in. And then you walk it back into the kitchen and you see 5 dead clones lying there. They basically just left all these dead bodies in this random cabin that they broke into.
It's so true.
What a tough fucking week for that person. Holy shit. I felt so bad the whole time. I was like, Jesus Christ, can we do this somewhere else? Like, this is someone's cabin.
It's funny you say that.
Stock down, being a cabin owner.
Because when I read that part of the book, I was like, wow, like imagine what the police are going to do when they show up here and they like see all these dead bodies that are literally the same person.
Who's finding her?
And then I saw like the picture, of the girl from CSI or whatever, like looking at the vials of blood and like telling the guy while the dramatic music plays, like, they all have the exact same DNA. Like, oh,
Yeah.
What? Like crazy. Yeah, so that's going to be really confusing for the whole world once that's figured out. Stock down for me is the security at a super secret underground lair. I mean, even Dr. Evil had better security. Amanda was the only one on duty the night that they escaped. You have Jason there who you now know is a different Jason. Why wouldn't you have all hands on deck? That seemed like the one time that, maybe we shouldn't just leave one person in charge of everything tonight. They don't deactivate Jason's security card or his code. What are you guys doing? Like, these guys are incompetent completely. And they never even considered the most important part. They never even considered that the Jason coming out of the box could be a different Jason than went in, even though they know the box goes to other parallel universes. Like, what? They're just like, oh, yeah, Jason, thanks for coming back. He's like, I don't understand anything that happened. It's like, no. Cool. No problem. You're good. Do whatever you want to do. Secret underground layers, security. They need to get better.
Yeah, I also didn't understand why they'd be upset that it's a different Jason. They'd be like, holy shit, this thing works. It's fucking awesome. Like, tell us everything about you. We'll try to get you back to that would be a good thing, no? I didn't understand that. Why they'd be like, you're lying to us. We're going to have to kill you now.
They could have posed it differently. Plus, at the same time, their original Jason's gone. The only way they could figure the box out would be potentially using this Jason. Right. So wouldn't you want to get...
the guy that still has the same brain.
Yeah, wouldn't you want to get into his good graces so that you could figure it out, considering the hundreds of billions of dollars you spent on this? But what ifs? What else do you ever stock down?
My last one was Swisher Sweets. I've never had one of these. I don't know if you've had one.
Oh, yeah, Swisher Sweets. Delightful.
Well, he pulls one out after a nice breakfast. Most cigars actually have a somewhat pleasant smell, especially named Swisher Sweets. I assume it's good.
Yeah,
but
they're
everyone looks around like basically he pulled his pants down and took a shit on the table. Everyone's leaving, like fucking yelling at him. I'm like, relax. It's a fucking cigar at a fucking diner. It almost adds atmosphere. Adds a little pizzazz to there. So, but apparently Swisher Sweets smell like absolute shit. So stock down.
No, Swisher Sweets they're cheap. I think that was like what we used to like get in high school or whatever to like feel like we were cool, even though they weren't. But yeah, they're trash. They're not good.
Oh, I guess the stock was already low.
Yeah, stock's way low. It's like the cheapest thing you can buy.
We are sponsored by Swisher Sweets, by the way. And,
also, thanks to Swisher Sweets, nature's sweetest cigar.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this was down or up, but I had to mention it. Whole Foods. So Jason, he goes to get ice cream at the beginning of the book and describes Whole Foods as a place that quote, smells like the hippie he had dated before Daniela, a tincture of fresh produce, ground coffee, and essential oils. That hits Whole Foods on the head. And yeah, it's like, it sounds good, but then
it doesn't sound bad at all.
It doesn't sound bad at all, but then to be like, oh, it smells like this hippie I used to date. If someone's like, hey, what's Whole Foods smell like? You're like, oh, it smells like this hippie I used to date.
Is produce fruit or is that vegetables? I don't really want to smell like vegetables. But fruit? Yeah, I love that. Is it both?
It's both. It's both. Yeah.
If it's like broccoli, it's like gross. But if it's, fresh strawberry, we love that.
Let's get into some love-hate. What did you love about this book?
I already talked about the world building, but also it's a book that really made you think along the way. There's a lot of twists and turns, super introspective of like, what would you do and how would you react type stuff. Definitely super original. Really loved all of that about it. I also liked that there was a character in the book named Dylan, and he wore skinny jeans and was an artist that, quote, bangs everyone, but then got cockblocked by Jason. So it's a great Dylan in the book.
Fuck that guy. What if that was
Sounds like
different
someone I know.
version of me? It could have been a different version of me.
No, that is you. That is the version of you. What
That's
do you mean?
this version of me? I don't own skinny jeans, so it's a slight difference.
And I also like the ending. I thought that was the only way to end the book, is just to like kind of let them off into the world, and that was good.
Yeah, I thought it was a good ending, considering like there's so many. I mean, there wasn't like a ton of loose ends, but it was just like, this is a crazy book about all these other worlds. Like, how are you going to end it, and kind of leaving it open to interpretation? Like, oh, where do they go? What kind of thing happens? I thought that was nice. I dug that as well. One of the things I loved about this book, and probably what I love the most maybe, was Entanglement, Daniela's art installation. That thing sounded awesome. I mean, if I go to an art installation, and which would be my first time going to an art installation, and they take my phone, I'm already thinking like, okay, this is going to be sick. Like, this is going to be something fucking spectacular. It had like planetarium vibes with a plexiglass labyrinth that looks or seems to the viewer to go on forever. There's white noise playing in the background, like TV static. And I wasn't sure when I read it, because it's an interesting feature. I wasn't sure if this was like to disassociate you as like you're going through this, or was it a nod to like the universe itself, because TV static is the cosmic microwave background, which, some's from the sun and some's from stars, other stars and astral phenomenon, but 1% of TV static is actually from the Big Bang itself. So I didn't know if it was kind of like a nod to that, or if it was just like for the art itself, because it definitely like ties into the universe. But I thought that was interesting. And then they talked about it as...
You lost me a little bit there. Weed, stock up.
No, like, so if you turn on TV and there's TV static,
yeah,
that is actually a signal you're receiving, or a microwave signal, like from the universe itself, like just from the air, from the outside world. And that static is coming from like different things that are interacting with it, including our sun, which is probably a lot of it, and then like other stars and galaxy stuff. And then, but 1% of TV static is actually like resonance from the Big Bang itself.
Wow. All right.
So, Entanglement was just sick. I wanted to go to it. I was like, that was the one thing after I read this book. I was like, shit, I wish someone would just create Entanglement, because I want to go there. So I loved it, as you can tell. My last love. The first thing Jason 1 asked Daniela 1 after reuniting, I mean, this guy's been through a harrowing journey through all these different universes, almost died countless times. I mean, he used his last ampule to get there. He finally reunites with his wife and son, who he's been trying to get to this entire book. And the first thing he asks her is whether Jason 2 was better in bed than he was. It's like... like, guys, am I right? This is just such a dude thing to say. It's like, all right, I'm so glad I found you, but like, did you bang Jason too? You did? Was he better than me? It's like, I don't know, he was you. What the fuck? And the best part is that he had sex with another Daniela, but like holds that back. He doesn't say that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He waits, like, oh, whatever. If she brings it up, I'll talk about it. But it's just like, I can't believe you banged him. It's like, what? It was you. What do you have for hate? There's got to be a few things you hated about this book.
Yeah, I went through a couple of them already. I think the beginning could have been, I think it would have been better if we didn't know that. I really didn't like Jason. I don't think there is many things that could happen that would change me into a killer that would want to go and just start killing clones and shit like that. And then also like one of the clones shot at them in the car with his wife and son in the car. I was like, seems like these dudes are fucking psychopaths. Jason's one of them, right? Like they're all fucking psychopaths.
Yeah.
Honestly, what he really should have done, I think would have been almost a better story, is he finds out that Jason 2 is actually better for her. I think that would actually have been a better story. And then he goes and starts a new life with Amanda. I think that would have been a cooler ending. Like, this wasn't meant to be, but this person is better fit for her now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I get that a traumatic event could totally change you psychologically, and like who knows what other traumas like these Jasons went through. Also, when Jason 2 came into the world, who obviously seems like a little bit more of a touched Jason, and he's a little crazier, considering the shit he did to Jason 1, like different Jason 2s would have found that area too. So some of those Jasons weren't Jason 1s. They were different versions of Jason 2. But I'm with you there. The whole Jasons thing, I didn't like. You know, it was just like, when it got to be like all the different Jasons, it was like that Spider-Man meme of like each Spider-Man pointing at a different Spider-Man. It almost became like silly to me. It became an episode of Rick and Morty. You know, it was just like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah, a little bit.
There's just
much,
like all these different ones. They're pointing at each other. They're like fighting each other. It was like, this is kind of silly. And the message board. Yeah. The message board aspect. Like, she's mine. It's like, no, she's mine. It's like, oh my God. Like, really, bros? And also like the idea that Jason had, the original Jason, like the lottery idea, like, I'll just give her away to one of these other Jasons. Like, huh? That really, Blake, that's what you came up with as an idea for like how you're going to advance the story a little bit? It didn't make any sense, because it just was goofy. Figure out a way in this realm that you created to have like a couple of Jasons, you know, or even if they're like, you know, have a dozen Jasons and one of them is like crazy murderous, just like saw some fucked up shit in the other universes, and he's going around killing all of them. Yeah. You know, so it's like, oh, there's this one Jason who's like trying to fuck shit up. Because it got a little silly, all of them shooting at each other. This is the first time we brought Amanda up on this podcast, and Amanda was a pivotal character for like a third of the book, and then she just vanishes. So my hate is, what the fuck happened to Amanda? Like,
that was exactly my hate as well.
She puts her ass on the line for him for not really much of a reason. They don't give her any backstory. I mean, we're kind of made to assume that they had a relationship, but really the only thing that she says is like, I didn't know what this place was. Like, I didn't know how bad this was, that they would like try to kill you or whatever. It was like, you didn't know who you were working for? There's like 27 people at this company. Like, how do you not know what you're doing?
Why are there people like guns in there? Why are they imprisoning people?
You don't understand what the stakes are at this company? Like, what? Yeah. It makes no sense whatsoever. And then she just like splits the money and the drugs with him and then leaves. The fact that they didn't tie it in there at all, and like your idea of like, oh, he should just like have moved on with Amanda and like done that, I feel like that would have been a good storyline. But just the fact that why wouldn't they just have one of the henchmen kill her or something? Just, you know, tie her storyline together somewhat. She was just kind of a floating character, and I feel like there was a lot of floating characters in this book, but she was a glaring one, so I didn't like.
Completely agree. Why wouldn't Jason 2, it's not even his world, why wouldn't he just bounce once all those new Jasons came? He'd be like, all right, whatever. I'll go back to my world, or I'll go find another Daniela that is single, you know? Like, I can just do this again. I'm not tied to this world anyway. What does it matter?
Go find another world where the only difference is Daniela decided to go to a different coffee shop that morning. Like, literally, that's it. Everything else is the same.
My last one was, why was Jason 2 so well trained at kidnapping and fighting? I didn't understand. Like, he was like Jason Bourne. Like, was there any backstory to that? He's like, oh, I'm proud you even fought back, but I was expecting that. It's like, wait, why? You're a fucking scientist. Yeah. You should be worse off, if anything.
Yeah, maybe he spent the last year when he realized this box was going to work, like training up on kidnapping techniques. Just watched Liam Neeson in Taken like 20 times.
I needed to he has a bunch of karate trophies in his house. He's like, oh, I knew it wasn't my house because there's a bunch of karate trophies.
That would have been awesome.
Been tied together. Yeah. That's all I wanted.
Oh, that'd be so good. The only other one I really had was, there's just no way you're finding your original universe. You know, even if you wrote all those things down and you thought your happiest thought, you know, it just doesn't make any sense that he would be able, like, obviously some Jason would find that universe, but our Jason, the one Jason, would find that universe. It's so unlikely. The chances are so minuscule that I didn't really like it very much. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, maybe this wasn't the Jason who we started with. Or maybe the world he found wasn't actually his world. It was a slightly different world that he has yet or had yet to realize was different, you know? Maybe Charlie's foot got run over by a car in this world and he's only got 3 toes, you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
You know, it just, maybe there's slight indifferences, but it just seemed a little crazy that he would, like, be able to find his own world by, like, you know, wishing it into existence. All right, let's get into casting the movie. So, like I said, this movie was bought by Sony. The rights to this movie were bought by Sony before the book even came out, which was quite a good get for Crouch there. And he's actually started working on the screenplay for this in 2020. So it looks like this is actually going to happen. We've got a few characters here, but who would you cast? Let's start with Jason, obviously.
Yeah, I think the movie would have to be a little bit different. I think we've alluded to it a little bit. But for Jason, I had Cillian Murphy. I feel like he can play a lot of roles, which this is going to require. I just saw A Quiet Place 2. He can kind of play that crazy, like, homeless person. He can play, like, the buttoned-up guy wearing a suit from Inception. He can play another crazy person in the Batman series.
What about the Peaky fucking Blinders?
And the Peaky Blinders, yeah, obviously. So yeah, I really like him as an actor. I think he could be very versatile. Okay. And this role kind of calls for someone that's pretty serious. So yeah, I think he fits the bill. What about you? And
it'd be fun if, like, he was doing his American accent, but then, like, there were some versions of him where he was doing his English accent. I'd be like, wait, what? How did he?
Actually, it would be good. He has one of the best American accents.
He has a really good American accent. No, for sure.
Yeah, you have no idea.
I'm going to let you do Daniela before I do my Jason. What do you got for her?
Oh, okay. Charlize Theron.
Oh, that's funny. That was actually the first thing that popped in my head, although I changed it. But
all right.
But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like she could be the mom cooking at home or the fancy art person.
Yeah. But I think Daniela has to have some deeper ethnicity to her based on the stew she made. Like, she made this stew that was, like, passed down from her great-great-grandmother. Like, I think she's Hispanic or of some sort of Latin American.
Isn't Charlize Theron South African? So, I mean, that's something.
So, yeah, for Daniela, then I had Eva Mendes, who I thought would fit in pretty well as the Daniela. Ooh. And we could give her a smock with some paint on it for Daniela, too. In which case, if we went that way, it just seems smart to me that we'd cast Jason as Ryan Gosling, her husband in real life, you know? And, I mean, for this kind of role, this Jason role, this is a big role. Like, you need a big star for this one if you're going to sell this movie. Yeah,
so Will Smith, you're saying? So Hitch, too?
Yeah, I mean, you could have Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, but I don't know if they're on speaking terms.
No, I'm talking about Hitch.
Yeah, Eva Mendes.
Will Smith and, yeah, come on.
No, I'm with you. So yeah, I'm going for a real couple going into this, and they can really embrace their relationship. You know what I mean? I feel like you could really get into the character with this kind of stakes at hand. So yeah, Eva Mendes and Ryan Gosling. Okay. I don't think they have a 15-year-old kid. Otherwise, I'd put them for Charlie. But did you have anyone for any other characters?
I just real quick, I did Finn Wolfhard, not soft. Wolfhard for Charlie. He's from Stranger Things. I don't really like him in Stranger Things either, but I feel like he played that annoying kid. So yeah,
there you go. Is that like the main character, the skinny kid?
Yeah, like the curly hair. He in love with 9.
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
What's her name?
11.
9? 11. There we go.
Add them together.
Add those 2 up.
Take away 6.
And then Amanda, I had from The Prestige, Scarlett Johansson's character. But that's like the exact same character that she plays, like a girl that comes in that wants to help out, falls in love, and then bounces. So I was like, I was just thinking of that. Okay. So I don't know if that made sense, but
it checks out.
And I love her, so obviously.
That checks out for sure. I love it.
Yeah.
The only other person I had was Charlie. I figure, because we're not doing, like, doesn't have to be today. You know, we can kind of take anyone from history. Granted, we usually lean to today just because, you know, recency bias. But I'm taking Will Wheaton. He was on Star Trek. He actually played Gordy in the Stand By Me movie, which is based on the book The Body, which is a previous episode of ours. But yeah, he's that kind of vibe, you know, seems like he'd fit. And actually, he reads audiobooks now. You've probably listened to an audio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's like his new thing he does. I actually don't love the sound of him on audiobooks, but that's what he does. So
Let me see the most popular ones if I can find him. Oh, he did Ready Player One? I fucking love that.
Oh, that's where I saw him. He did the new Ready Player 2, and I was like, oh my God, this book sucks, and his voice is horrible.
Well, Ready Player One was awesome.
Well, I mean, maybe it was just better material. I'll give him another shot. Let's get down to brass tacks. Would you recommend this book to our listeners or anyone else in your life?
Yeah, I think it was a good book. It was a great thinker book, great world building, super, super original, which I think is important. Yeah, and I think that's enough to put it over the edge of all like some of the questions we brought up, which I think, obviously this is like very out there book, so it's hard to be perfect, but I really liked it. What about you?
I'm with you there. I think we were looking for a beach read, and I think that's what we got. You don't need to delve too deep into the questions about it. It's definitely a page turner. Every time I sat down to read it, it was one of those things I was looking at the clock, which is like a huge thing for me. Like, oh my God, it's been an hour. So it fit those criteria for me. And like you said, original story, interesting idea. We did bring up some parts that were a little bothersome for sure, but that middle third of the book was so good that
Great.
I was willing to put up with kind of the shenanigans at the end, and I like the beginning too. How the hell did he get here? What was the story? So I'm a fan. It was recommended to me by a couple people, and I'm going to continue to recommend it to others if people want kind of like a fun sci-fi thriller, change things up a little bit. So. Mm-hmm. And
great dinner party discussion.
Yeah, I really wanted to at the beginning. Now that you said that you were a Schrödinger's cat guy, I'd be like, all right, so dude, you're an expert now, so give us the explanation.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do that. We are going to tell you about our next book, though. Keith, what are we reading next? Sci-fi thriller, maybe kind of similar, right?
Yeah, Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. I think this is probably one of the first books you recommended to me. So yeah, giving it another shot. Probably 8 or 9 years later. I've dug into it. The audiobook's awesome. I'm really liking it so far. So
it's one of my favorite young adult books for sure, and definitely a page turner. I consider it a great summer beach read. So I hope it fits into everyone else's style. So if you haven't yet, pick it up. We'll be coming back to you in a couple weeks with Ender's Game. So check us out on Instagram and Twitter, and follow us on Spotify and iTunes. That'd be great. Otherwise, we'll see you for Ender's Game.
Bye now.